Marcia Raab. Let me explain what Marcia Raab. First of all, Sally Desani, who's facilitating, she's back there. She introduced me. She said, "You really need to meet this woman. This is another one of those golden threads." And she said, "Let's go out for drinks." So we went to Fleming's. And I listened to her tell her story and talk about her team. And there's a lot of Defender Direct people back there. There's about 20 of them. And I'll tell you something, you have one heck of a president. And being at your global sales meeting and watching that interaction and meeting Darren Hardy, and by the way, a lot of that content on that CD is by his coaching, just so you know, he has helped me immensely over the last year, thanks to you. Marcia joined Defender Direct in 2005 as the director of marketing when she emerged her call center business with them. Since then, she has led the marketing, sales, and leadership departments. The company motto, businesses don't grow, people do. It's amazing. It makes a lot of sense when you've spent life growing a family and growing a business, says Marcia. As a farmer's daughter, she is a big advocate of self-improvement and is a winning example herself. She is always working to build leaders on her team by encouraging others to work harder on themselves than they do on their jobs. And I'm telling you, she lives it and breathes it. So it is my pleasure to have you as our last and inspiring speaker. And you want some lights up, don't you, a little bit?
Yeah, we want some lights.
Lights up. She wants a little bit more interaction. Thank you.
Lights up. All right, thank you, Jennifer. We're going to finish strong, ladies. We're going to finish strong. Everybody on your feet, not just my team, everybody. This is the way I get a standing ovation. Put your arms out like this. And I'm going to give you an idea of what this panel is here to do for you today. Now, I want you to turn just as far as you can to your right, keeping your feet in place in front of you. Oh. And I want you to look at where your right arm is and spot a place on the wall, a chair, a row, something like that, just as far as you can reach. Okay, go back to normal. All right, now I want you to picture being able to stretch further than that in your mind. I want you to believe that you have loosened some muscles up so that you will be able to stretch faster. And I want you to think about the collective power of every woman in this room contributing to you being able to stretch faster. And let's do it again and see if you can go farther than you did before. Did you do it? Did you go farther? Yeah. All right, good for you. You've grown a little. Right. Ephesians 2:10 says to us, you are God's masterpiece, especially created, perfectly created, to do his good work that he planned for you before you were born. Look at the person next to you. Look them right in the eyes. Get somebody in hand there. Look them in the eyes and say to them, you are a masterpiece.
You are a masterpiece.
Now yes, look at, that's it. Say it to each other. You are a masterpiece. We forget this so often. And self-awareness is at the core of really being able to make meaningful change in yourself as a leader. You must be self-aware. And the first thing to be aware of is you are perfect. And you are perfectly created to accomplish something great that I'm not created to do. Sally's not created to do. Jennifer's not created to do. Just you. You came to this planet to accomplish that. And this planet needs you to accomplish that. But you have to be self-aware enough to figure out what that is. You have to figure out what you're passionate about, what you can be world-class at.
And the last thing I would share with you, I'm kind of building on Ann's comments this morning. I would say that I'm, kind of transforming. I'm not sure I'm kind of in that cocoon, but I would definitely say I'm in a place in my life after 30 years and really excited to be at this place, that I'm figuring out the next chapter of my life. So it's really a pleasure to be here with you all today.
Thanks, Kim. Nancy, how about you? Would you be good enough to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Nancy Huber. I'm the president and CEO of Fifth Third Bank here in central Indiana. And it's really interesting listening to all of our varied backgrounds. You'd think the president of a bank would have gone to college and been a finance major and worked in banking for years. I started my career as a merchandise manager of bras and panties. And you can see the natural segue to banking, right? Kim, to your point, I went through a transition about 10 or 11 years ago. I'd cast about. I'd had a 20-some year career in retail merchandising and loved it, loved everything about it, but found myself really thinking about what else could I do. But it's so hard for people, young people, older people, to transfer their skills, to understand how you move from one industry to another. And just because we've talked today a lot about mentoring and partnering with other women, a good friend of mine knew my skill set and had gone to work for a bank and saw what I did and saw what bankers do. I happened to join the retail bank. And so just through serendipity, someone saw that connection and helped me make that transition. I would tell you, it has changed my life, and it is a very frightening thing to do, but it's a very exciting thing to do.
Kim, I know that you believe that before you can take care of others, you really have to learn to take care of yourself. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy and your belief there.
Sure. Well, we had a call before in preparation for today, and really the first thought that came to mind for me in terms of inspiring others and leadership was frankly something that I don't think I would have thought about even 5 years ago. I think that's kind of some of the personal growth that I've had, and life has a way of putting certain things in your journey that cause you to really stop and reflect. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned, which is why my answer right now in terms of inspiring others, the first thing that comes to mind is how important it is to really make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Women by nature, and we've heard some of this even this morning, we're so good about, taking care of others at home, raising children, and at the office, being CEO, president, making sure everything's happening, that slowly over time, you begin to lose sight that I may not be taking care of myself. And I think there even has been a little bit of a paradigm shift. It used to be, I know when I started my career 30 years ago, that it was about doing it all. You have to do it all. And I learned probably sooner that you can't do it all, and you need to rely on others. But the lesson I definitely gained is the importance of self-care. And I would describe, how I've really grown in the last few years of taking care of myself. Well, Marcia's already helped us with one of them today, and that's the physical. Really, thank you for the exercise. Appreciate that. Didn't have time this morning to love that, Marcia. I do make sure that I exercise several times a week, and diet, and sleep. My daughter, who's a student athlete at Michigan, she has a sleep disorder, so I've gained the knowledge about the importance of making sure you get sleep. Y'all probably understand that. Emotional, taking care of yourself. Thinking, being positive, and I've always had the gift of that, fortunately, thanks to my parents, of being positive. But making sure that you pamper yourself, make time for yourself, do those things that you enjoy, because you do recharge your battery when you have those opportunities. And I think you're even more effective then, in your professional life. I think you have to make sure in taking care of yourself that you put yourself in situations and environments and around people that really are good for you. I will tell you, I have made decisions to go into organizations. One was even at the top level. And I went in with the attitude of, I can help, I can make a difference, I can help them. That's servanthood. Day 2, and I had been recruited over a 6-month time frame for this position as president. And day 2, I knew something wasn't right. I lasted 1.5 years. I stuck it out, as I would say, largely because I wanted to help so many of the other people there, but there was a very challenging owner, and that was a lesson for me. I never made more money in my life. We were doing good things, but the day-to-day, buffering and just realizing values aren't aligned. This is just not the right fit. This isn't good for me. This isn't good for my family. I resigned. So I think that just put a huge spotlight on self-care is also about putting yourself in situations that are really going to be good for you.
When I was thinking about the topic today about inspiring future leaders, in my role, and I think you mentioned this, Sally, the easiest part of my day is delivering the results that I'm charged with from the Bancorp. Just like most of you sitting in the room today, I have a very specific goal that I have to attain. But the unwritten goal, if you will, is all of the 700 associates who work in the Central Indiana Bank. To me, the most important part of what I do is truly building a legacy of talent for the organization. And when I think about what has inspired me as I've come up through my career, and what I hope I can share with my associates directly, and also sort of build a culture, is that of being truly authentic and really insisting that people are authentic and true to themselves. Especially I think young women very often think they have to make themselves into something that is prescribed, or you have to. In the olden days, we all had to wear navy blue suits and white ties with bows. There are a few of us in this room who might remember those days. Who cares? You do a great job, you deliver results, you are a good manager, you're a good leader. I like to think, and I know this is a very overused phrase, but I love to see ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and I think that is what inspires people. And I hope at the bank that we have truly built a culture that talks to that. We're very open. We talk about developing. I mean, Marcia, you talked about that. We spend a lot of time talking to people about, what are your personal goals and aspirations, and being really genuine and honest in giving them feedback and helping them acquire the skills or developing the talents that they need to be successful. And all of us today, I think, have talked about well, I just laugh. I'm a mother of 2 children also, and I've been married twice. I tell my husband who's living I buried the wrong one. The one who's living doesn't like that, but he's a good sport about it. But I remember the exact moment sitting on the sideline at a soccer game when I decided the only person who cared about a clean house was me. And so I just enjoyed that beautiful day. And I think we all have realized you can't have it all, and that's okay. And I think especially those of us who are a little older, it's good to set the bar really low so that those of you who are younger just walk on over it and go on with life and be a happy person. There you go.
Thank you.
The question I have is, you always hear that saying, it's lonely at the top. Can you speak to that? I mean, have you felt that? And I mean, in a day like today, we're among, like-minded people, but how you kind of deal with that idea of it's lonely at the top or in a leadership role?
Marcia, why don't you throw an answer back at that?
Who did you take with you if you're lonely at the top? This journey is not about going on your own. It's about developing others and taking them along. What is this thing doing? Okay. It's about developing others and taking them along the journey with you. I guess part of it is my spiritual foundation too. I'm never alone anywhere I go because the Lord's with me and in charge. But everywhere I look, there's people on the same journey I am. Just because you're in the C-suite or you've got the title or a role of a leader doesn't mean that you have become everything you will ever become. Just because you have children doesn't mean that you're as far along on family leadership as you will ever be. It's a continuous process. My day yesterday consisted of a text message from our vice president of sales telling me that one of our salespeople bought her very first home. Never thought she'd be able to do that. One of our salespeople bought his very first car after riding the bus to work for 6 months straight. I sat in a meeting with our assistant controller telling me after 3 years of trying to have a baby, how this weekend she felt the baby kicking for the very first time. And then I walked in to do some work with one of our trainers in a presentation, and he said, I achieved one of my Post-it note goals this weekend. I've been asked to return to ministry in a marriage program at my church. And I'm surrounded by leaders like that, but I look for it and I expect it and I notice it and recognize it when I see it. It energizes me. It's the reason that I get up every morning hitting the ground running. And if you can find that spot that you've been created perfectly to do, and then spend all of your time and energy there and watch for yourself to show up, you're going to have a very blessed life. And there is no way you can be lonely in that type of a life. So don't fear loneliness.
I do have a comment about, that's a really good topic. I kind of alluded to that in the beginning about when I wasn't getting developed and I was lifting everybody up, but I didn't seek more help. I didn't go outside to network and be mentored and find people that are in those same positions, that we have a unified network of people. And when you start feeling like that, that's when I call it the danger zone. It really is. It is, if for any of you, I've lived it, it is the danger zone.
How about some more questions?
I'm going to put Sue on the spot.
I have a question for Kim as you're going through a career transition and looking for what comes next for you. How do you approach that? What's been successful for you, or what do you recommend to others as they think about leaving what's the wrong fit and looking for the right fit?
I think the first thing you do is try and learn from, not that you want to spend too much time in the rearview mirror, but to look at, when you've had the benefit of a lot of years, where have you really felt the best? What has come easy? And you kind of put that list together. And I think the flip side is identifying, what have those situations been, or what were you asked to do that didn't feel as much of a fit? So I think I start with kind of a self-examination in terms of that. I think you also have to look at going forward, be very, networking is huge, and I do feel very blessed that I expanded my network today, which is awesome, with so many talented women. But continuing to develop a network. People have said to me, Kim, if you could make money just on your network, you'd be a very rich woman, which is not my primary goal. But I've been very fortunate that one of the positive outcomes of what I would call kind of a roller coaster entrepreneurial career the last 10 years has been the number of incredible people that I've met, and people that I've met in this city, which is where I want to continue to live. Going forward, it's really, as you have these opportunities, you make the best decision you can with the information that you have. I've gotten, from more experience, I've gotten better at asking even more questions and really looking for some different things that I didn't know to look for before. So it's self-examination, it's learning from the past, and I would say being very open and realistic about these other opportunities ahead of you. If your gut tells you something isn't right about it, trust your gut. And I will say there was definitely a time that it's that head and heart thing. I let my heart maybe do a little bit too much of the decision making for me.
Thank you. How about some more questions?
Come on, you got one chance to ask these awesome women.
That's right. Oh, we've got somebody, Jill. Jill Wangler
I'm
from
running
Fine Line Printing. Fine Line Printing, by the way, who did a lot of did all the printed materials. They did a wonderful job.
Is awesome, and she said, I'll do whatever I can to help you guys be successful. Didn't you?
I did. Thank you. I'd like for you guys to talk a little bit about managing up, because I think that's important as a leader, because you're not always at the top, but you have to manage and be a leader to your management.
Nancy, why don't you share some thoughts?
Do I have an evil smile on my face?
I think we were all like,
One of the things that the bank is doing for our leadership team is giving us the opportunity to experience emotional intelligence. If you have not read about it, I encourage all of you to do it. There's your IQ, which is all the skill side, and there's the EQ, which is the self-awareness side and how you engage with other people side. And so we spent a couple days together, different groups of people, and I had the opportunity to do that. And I think, I think I'm a pretty self-aware person, and I have a big table full of Fifth Thirders back there who gave me feedback, and they would agree with me. And having said that, you think after you go through years of experience that you wouldn't be caught up by anything. You wouldn't be caught off guard. You wouldn't take the bait. Well, about 6 months ago, 9 months ago, I just took the bait so big on something, and I thought, oh, I was so cranky, and I like you, Kim, I'm a real optimist, but I was just really bugged, man. I was just really bugged, and I couldn't let it go, and it was impacting my day, and it was impacting the way I think I was leading my team. And when I went to emotional intelligence, one of the things that we talked about, and I heard the expression used here earlier today, was a toxic environment. Anybody ever got caught up in a toxic environment? What do you do when it's your boss who's creating the toxic environment? Yeah. Well, just realizing that instead of doing what I knew, all my history, all my experience had taught me to do, I was taking the bait. I was getting caught up in that toxic environment. And just the recognition that I was doing it was enough to stop me and say, okay, go back. And so this is a very long way of getting to the managing up part. I realized I just needed to take a deep breath, listen more, be more, I got it, understand that, yeah, I'll work right, just because it wasn't my set of priorities, I needed to be responsive. I needed to address it in a way that worked for me, though, instead of fighting so much against it. So I would suggest sometimes just stepping back, giving yourself a little time to reflect and get yourself in a good place, then you can manage up just fine.
Thank you, Nancy. Let me add to it, because you started to talk about EQ, which is one of my favorite topics. But EQ is a better predictor of leadership success than IQ, past business experience, or past academic experience. There's a book you might want to get. It's called Working with Emotional Intelligence, not a very inventive name, by Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is the guru of emotional intelligence here in the United States, and so he wrote the book Working with Emotional Intelligence. It's really quite good. How about another
Sally,
question?
Okay,
Yes.
Sally?
Oh,
sorry.
Yes.
I'd like to just take one more other perspective
Please do,
on
please
the
do.
managing up. It's very, very important as leaders that you allow people to manage up through you. Sometimes we take the topic managing up and we only think about going to our boss with it, but you need to be open, transparent, vulnerable, all of those things so that you can encourage the right conversations to happen. Because true growth happens from all directions, 360 degrees. I've got two boys that are 20 and 23, and the oldest one asked me, because he noticed that my boss and I have this really open, candid conversation all the time, nonstop. And he said, how do you do that? How do you get comfortable with doing that? And I said, so let's create a safe zone, because he's all about harmony. Let's create a safe zone between you and I, and you start to challenge me when you see things I shouldn't be doing, and practice. We'll practice that so you develop the capability and the muscle to do that. Well, the first project he tackled within that was my spa bill, because he was a finance major in college, and he helped me with managing my budget. So I'm like, okay, pick another topic, pick something else. And we went on vacation with, I was dating, and the gentleman I went with, we all went on this family vacation. We got to the end of the vacation, he said, Mom, you got to do something about this. Now that's candor. But if I had not encouraged him to have that conversation, he wouldn't have had the chance to have this muscle grow that is a leadership muscle, that is a relationship muscle, that he'll be able to use in all of his relationships going forward. So be open and let those conversations start to come to you. It's not fun, and I got a big team here today. I meant this for the other people.
Right.
Let the other people coach up, not you guys.
Sally?
Yes.
I'm honored to have my mother want to ask a question. This is my
Excellent.
mother, Janet Browning, that world figure skating champion that I told you about.
Yeah, that's very nice.
This is Janet Browning with FC Tucker. If you need to sell your house, she's there. Anyway, I'll let you promote you.
You all have been amazing mentors, sponsors, all these new words to me anyways. But I would be curious as to what book, and Sally, you touched on it, that you would each recommend us to read. So Sally, you said working with emotional intelligence.
Well, yes, on the topic of EQ,
Okay.
it might be a little dry
All right.
on
well,
that
pick-
topic. But let's,
Wait, can
Deanna.
I get a second? Okay,
Well,
wait one second.
We'll let everybody
Yeah.
make a comment on that. Deanna.
Something that's near to me is Taking Care of Yourself. Corporate Athlete is the book that I would encourage everyone to read, and I'm not entirely through with it yet, but I'm halfway there, and I'm really liking it, and it also embraces and pushes back to say, as professional athletes, they have an off season. As corporate athletes, we never have that off season. We never have that downtime. We have to be the controller, the president, the CEO all the time, and how to balance that by taking better care of yourself, your health, the mental, emotional health, and how that makes you a better corporate athlete.
That's great. Stephanie, how about you?
I am not the right person to ask what to read. Sadly, the only reading I do lately is flipping through a magazine. Honestly, the reading that I do is for pleasure. I try not to read too much on business because I feel that, I do that in my everyday life, and someone else writing a book telling me what to do isn't going to necessarily make me do my job any better. I think we all learn from experience, and we have to make our own mistakes, and that is how we grow as individuals. So sadly, I do not have a title for you.
I don't think it's sadly. I think it's a very candid and genuine response. And I was going to say Nora Loft, or one of the Roberts, I guess it is. Actually, in the EI, because of this class, I actually read The Resonant Leader, which is an excellent book also. Again, think about a dissonant leader versus a resonant leader. Are you resonating with the people that you work with? To Marcia's point, are you open? Do you encourage people to engage in the whole experience that you share together? So I would say Resonant Leader is a great one.
Kim.
I have a book that I was just exposed to about 1.5 years ago. It's called The Language of Letting Go. And it's how I end when I was talking about kind of the spiritual development. It's what I read every night before I go to bed, because there's a passage or kind of an inspiring thought for every day of the year. And a friend gave me this book 1.5 years ago. I bought my own copy. And it's something I'm going to continue to do. Every day there's just a very thought-provoking excerpt, and that's very affirming. It confirms about, really where you're at today is where you're supposed to be. Where I'm at in this transition, it says you're right where you're supposed to be, and being in that in-between is really a good thing. And I do consider it a gift. So The Language of Letting Go. Some great early morning or nighttime reading.
Thanks, Kim. Before I asked Marcia, we asked Marcia what her favorite book is, and I don't know how you can possibly pick a favorite, but what I'll tell you is that Marcia has a reading list of books that she recommends, and Marcia probably doesn't know, I carry that reading list with me every single day. I have it with me. It's like a piece of security. I always know there's a place I can go and some piece of advice I can get from that reading list. So to that end, here's what I'll promise you. If you put your business card before you leave on this dais up here, I will personally make sure that you get a copy of Marcia's reading list. And with that, then I will turn it over to Marcia to see if she can pick one for you right now.
Well, I always tell the folks at Defender, as I spend about 90 minutes with every new hire as they come into the company on Mondays, I always tell them we are the readingest organization on the face of the planet. Now, don't bother grabbing your phones and looking up if readingist is a word, because I don't think it is. I made it up. But I read 50 to 60 books a year, so they're letting me make up a word. So I think reading, for me, I don't know that I could have done and grown and become what I am without reading. So it's been a very important tool in my personal development and helping others develop. I have like favorites by topic. If I was, if somebody's saying, what should I read? I need the for what issue. So if I just stick to growing leaders, I would say I'd go to the John Maxwell Leadership Bible. It is a Bible that embeds all of John Maxwell's writings into the chapters of the Bible. And I can find anything I need to do, need to know, the answer to any leadership challenge that I'm having, or how to bless someone or help someone grow. in the pages of that book. So I'd highly encourage that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jennifer, how are we doing on time?
think
I
we
know
need
it's
to
a little
wrap it
over
up.
4.
Yeah, I just want to show everybody my favorite book that I actually brought today. It's the best book. It's How Remarkable Women Lead. And when I was reading it, I said, where in the heck was this when I was growing my career? I think I got Defendered some of the women there to read it. But anyway, it's called The Breakthrough Model of Work and Life, How Remarkable Women Lead. So that's just my contribution.
Thank you.